All right, what is going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. Today is going to be kind of part 2 on the last video that we uploaded. And in the last video I talked a little bit about how you might want to finance a car, especially the car purchase, right? If you are going to be spending money on a car and you're really passionate and or like you just care about going from A to B, how you might fit that into your financial picture, right? To make sure that you're set up for success. And so today it's going to be a little bit of a part 2 on that. I wanted to kind of share a little bit about how to break down and expect the expenses or the maintenance costs, right? When you buy a car, it's not just the upfront purchase price that you should be like kind of concerned about. The other thing you kind of have to worry about as you're doing month-to-month maintenance is the kind of things that pop up that, you know, aren't just the car, right? The tires, the windshield wipers, right? If a headlight goes out, things that you'll just have to replace kind of on any car. But it definitely depends which car you have, right? Some of the models out there, very cheap to to replace, very cheap and easy to find parts. On other vehicles, especially foreign vehicles, it can be quite expensive and hard to find some parts. And so today I kind of wanted to go through a little bit of the maintenance journey that I've had, especially with one of my cars here. So this is the 2011 BMW 328xi that I have, which is, you know, basically my daily driver. You know, it's just a basic 4-door sedan from BMW from 2011. And yeah, I mean, I got it a couple years ago. It's, for me, it's the very perfect daily driver, right? So you've got the combination of having all-wheel drive. So for Michigan here, it's a no-brainer, right? That's fantastic. You've got the manual 6-speed transmission from BMW, and so that just adds a little bit of play and fun to the car, right? I can bang through gears at, you know, in between stoplights and when I'm commuting on the highway, and it just kind of gives you more of the feel of the road and the car, honestly, when you have a manual. And yeah, I mean, it's a BMW, right? So it rides beautifully. It's got all the bells and whistles in the base model that you would expect, you know, heated seats, heating steering wheel, sunroof, all that jazz. So yeah, I mean, I kind of want to go through a little bit about the maintenance figures that I've had over the last couple years and the most recent maintenance that I just had done. I just picked the car up today where we had to get some rear suspension, some brake lines done, and some new tires. All right, so yeah, I just wanted to break down some of the expenses that, you know, I had to pay for recently with the vehicle. And basically there was 4 main items that we kind of wanted to go through. And some of these things are routine maintenance, and some of these things are just things that happen over time, right? This is a 2011 vehicle, and so there are some maintenance things that I had to take care of, specifically being the rear shock absorbers. That's something that's been going on and off and finally just kind of failed. I'll show some pictures here of kind of what that looked like. But yeah, that means, you know, I was bouncing all around in all these Michigan potholes. You know, I really couldn't stop the car from bouncing, and that's because the rear shock absorbers were gone. So that was, you know, a $900 expense that wouldn't happen, right, if you bought something brand new and or even 5 years old. You probably wouldn't have that issue, but, you know, being a 2011, it's going to have some of those issues. Another one of those issues, because it's a 2011, was the rusted out brake lines. I had to get brand new brake lines throughout the car, and yeah, you know, it's with these Michigan winters and all the salt that's on the road, after more than a decade, it's going to end up doing that. So that was another $350. Not great, but hopefully if you're buying a car that's 5 years or so old and or brand new, you won't have any of those issues. The other 2 items that were on the list of things that I need to get done were much more routine maintenance. And this is where I think it can help a lot of people kind of understand what you want to be budgeting for when it comes to expenses, right, on any vehicle. And so the first expense that I had done was the oil change. Right, oil changes happen every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, and you want to make sure you do that, right, to make sure your engine doesn't blow up and just to keep your car healthy. For this car specifically, it's around 7 quarts of oil, and so, you know, that's going to range depending on what kind of car you have, what trim, and of course what model. But basically, the more quarts you have, the more expensive it's going to be. $75 for the labor, the quarts of oil, and everything wasn't terrible. But, you know, if I did it myself, it'd be probably a little bit cheaper. And then depending on the car model, I think something that's more domestic, like a Ford, a Chevy, or a Dodge, I think those oil change prices are probably going to be a little bit cheaper for you. So that's something to take in mind, right, when you do this. If you're driving 12,000 miles a year, then, you know, that's probably at least on the at least minimum 2 oil changes a year, right? And so if that's 75 bucks, that's 150 for twice a year. Make sure that 150 is budgeted, right, into those 6-month intervals or into the, 12-month year, just to make sure that you have enough money when you're going to pay for that car. And so, yeah, the last thing that I had to get done this time around was brand new tires. And that can be something that can be very expensive depending on where you live. Here in Michigan, I kind of needed all season tires, especially for, the daily driver. And so those can run quite a bit. For these 4 tires, mounted, balanced, and kind of aligned, it was $420. So I went with pretty much the cheapest tire I could find because, this is kind of my daily driver, and as long as I'm on the road, I'm pretty happy about it. But for a vehicle that you have, you want to make sure you're budgeting for this. And you want to make sure that not only are the tires in your budget, but the oil changes, because those are a little bit more frequent. And you also want to be putting a little bit of money aside just to make sure that any of these surprise things happen, like the shocks or the brake lines that I had mentioned, that you can cover those, right, without being in some kind of dire situation financially. And so, yeah, I'm going to break down a little bit more about how I would expect you to actually do this on paper. And so let's go back to the crib, and I'll do that now. So we are back here at the crib, and I just wanted to give some of my closing thoughts on how you might be able to afford some of these car expenses that are around maintenance. So today we went through like 4 different types of things that I had to get done recently on the BMW. 2 of those were the oil change and the tires, and those are pretty common. Pretty much every car is probably going to need that. And then you have the brake lines and the suspension. Those are quite rare, and those don't often come up, especially if you're buying a newer car. And so what I would recommend is for the things that are going to happen regularly, like an oil change or tires, you find out what that cost would be every year to own that vehicle, and then just break that down by 12, right? So that you can see how much money you should be putting into your budget to be able to maintain your car every single month. And then I would also recommend you have about $1,000 in an emergency fund to be able to fix the things that aren't so common. Things like I had to do, right, with the suspension and the brake lines. That's something that you want to make sure you have as probably a cushion there to make sure that you don't accidentally get yourself into a spot where you have to take a loan out to fix your car or anything like that. Hopefully this information is helpful for you, and I'm excited to bring some more videos on the maintenance journey, not just of the BMW, but also of the Charger and the Corvette. So stay tuned, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.